Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Cindy Costley. I am here representing the University of Wisconsin System and KEPRO, and I'm super excited today to be talking about the Manager's Guide to Self-Care. Thank you so much for taking time to be on this webinar. You're doing the very first step in putting yourself first and practicing self-care by just being on this webinar. So it's really great that you're taking that time today to do so. I know sometimes it's really hard to pause what you're doing at work and, jump on something that you don't know what it's going to be like or if it's going to be beneficial. And so I'm really grateful that you're here today. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please feel free to to write in the chat or the Q&A. I will pause regularly to, check the chat and the Q&A. And also, you can message directly to me. So if you don't want anybody to know your name and who you are asking the question, you can address it directly to me as opposed to everybody. So when you write in the chat or the Q&A, make sure you make it to all or to your host, and then I'll see it if you don't want anybody else to see your name. And I'll just be reading off questions. I won't be saying names. So just to keep some autonomy here in the group if that's necessary. So again, thank you so much for joining. Before I get started, I just want to share a little bit about myself, and how I know a little bit about self-care. I am a coach, an author, and a mast cell wellness coach, so an allergy coach. And I got into this industry. My background is in nutrition. I've been a nutritionist my entire adult life, pretty much. But when I was 15 years old, I suddenly became allergic to the world. And when I say the world, I mean everything. I became allergic to almost all chemicals, almost all animal life, other than amphibians, anything with hair I became allergic to, most plant life, and most foods. So it manifested in the form of severe rashes all over my body. And I dealt with that for about 34 years before I learned that it was actually all trauma. So during the 34 years, I raised 3 kids, I got a degree, I worked for other companies, and then I started my own company. So I did still move forward in my life. But what I didn't do was ever really practice this discussion we're having right now about self-care. I chose everybody else. I took care of everybody else first. When I would have the severe allergic reactions, I would, take the Band-Aid and get rid of the symptoms, whether that was a steroid shot or, medication, whatever it was. I just constantly kept putting Band-Aids on it rather than stopping to look at what's my body actually trying to tell me, what is happening within me to create these constant allergic reactions. And then at age 48, my body had had enough. It said, I can't do this anymore. I was passing out. I passed out several times in a week, and the doctors couldn't figure it out until they realized that my allergen count in my body was so high that my body was just shutting down. At the same time, my liver and kidneys were shutting down as well because I had taken so many medications over the years, and just because of all the chronic allergic reactions. So what I realized is, yes, I had been doing what I needed to do to get through life, but I never paused long enough to say, what does Cindy need? I'm important. I'm just as important as everybody else. When I would go down with a severe allergic reaction, my family would jump in, take care of the kids, get them off to school, get meals to our house. Like they cared for me, but I didn't care for me because I didn't stop and pause. And we're going to talk about that throughout the day. So what happened is I ended up finding out that all my allergic reactions were caused from childhood trauma. So when I became allergic to everything at 15, my body basically said, I'm going to stop you from ever getting hurt again by keeping you away from everything. And that was the message, that's the way my body learned to protect me. So instead of becoming depressed or full of anxiety or masking it with drugs or alcohol, because I did have some pretty severe traumas as a child, my body just said, I'm going to just keep you safe and keep you away from everything. So I spent 7 years healing all the trauma, healing everything, and learning to take care of me, learning to prioritize my life, and learning to listen to my body. And we're going to talk a lot more about that today. So again, as I said this in the beginning, but as we go through this, please feel free to put comments or questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll be pausing regularly to answer them. I'm here for you today, and I really hope that at the end of this, in the next little under an hour, that you can walk away with some new concepts and some realizations about how important you are, that you matter, and that how to put some self-care into place for yourself at work and at home. Okay, so why do we want to focus on self-care? Well, we all would like a little more energy. I don't really talk to too many people that say I have all the energy I want in the world, right? And when we look at self-care, it also helps us build resiliency. My healing journey was very, very hard. So taking care of me ended up being really, really hard once I decided to do it, once I learned how to do it. And the reason for that is because I went through this desensitization process where I desensitized my body to all the trauma and all the allergic reactions 1 week at a time. And every reaction, I should say, every time, every treatment that I had, I was down in bed for 3 to 4 days on most occasions in a lot of pain because homeopathic, I did everything naturally. And with homeopathy, it releases it, it builds, it shows the symptoms before it releases it out of your body. So I learned to be resilient. And I also learned that I matter enough to choose me. I walked away from my own business. I had a company I had built for 12 years, and it was hard. It was really hard, big decision to make, but I knew that I mattered and I chose me. And what I hope you walk away from today is looking at doing this ahead of time before it gets so bad that you end up being forced to do self-care and make huge changes like I had to do. My husband and I sold our house, moved to the beach. We changed everything. We went from 2 incomes down to one so that I could heal. And it was worth it because I am thriving now. My life is amazing. And, it also took a lot of work. So I wish I had done this years ago, which is the message to you. So hopefully, by you choosing to take care of yourself, build that resiliency, get back up and choose you even when it's hard, because as we're going to talk about, hard is not bad. Hard is just something that's really fabulous, actually, because it gets us to heal some of those things that need to be healed. We want to support our immune system, prioritize our psychological health. One thing that's very different from my body from most people is that I never felt anger, sadness, or anything around my traumas. So I used to tell my friends and my family, even my girls, I used to tell my daughters, you don't ever want to happen to you what happened to me. I never talked about what happened to me. So one of the things that happened at age 14, I never spoke about my entire life. And until all this came down to me realizing that it was trauma that was causing these allergic reactions, and I had to start speaking about it. But I would tell them, I got away unscathed. You don't want this to happen to you because you might not. And I realize now I didn't get away unscathed. My body just learned how to feel emotions physically. So instead of feeling that sadness or that anger, I actually felt it. I didn't have the psychological issues, I had all physical issues. But most people, when you undergo trauma or you're dealing with high stress in your life, chronic stress, right? Things are going on for a long time, most people are affected psychologically, emotionally, as well as, oftentimes physically as well, because our bodies will take those emotions and those trapped emotions that are in our body and that we haven't done anything with, and it converts it into a disease. That's where a lot of autoimmune diseases come from. So we're also, want to practice self-care so we can improve our ability to help others. I am so grateful where I'm at right now in my life because I have healed myself and now I get to help others. Now I get to speak to others and say, choose you, right? I get to do this today. And I really hope you walk away feeling empowered to choose you and to know that you matter just as much as everybody else in your life. Increase your ability to handle challenging times. That's just, life is challenging. Life really does get hard sometimes. And what I've learned, and I said this a little bit ago, hard is not bad. Hard is not bad. We see hard as bad. but hard is, it just is difficult sometimes. But what comes out of us, pushing through it, being resilient, finding our strength and our power through it, is not bad. It's actually really, really good in the end. It's just that in between time that can be hard at times. Debunk the martyr syndrome and avoiding the crash and burn. I crashed and, I had one allergic reaction after another. And like I said, all the years, I mean, when my daughter was born, my hormones flared everything up where it was intense. So much so that I moved across country because my doctor said maybe human environment would be better for you. So I packed her up. I did so many big changes, so many things that I did over the years to try to, just stop the reactions as opposed to look at why I was having these symptoms in the first place. And then I ended up crashing and burning. And luckily, I survived it. My family and I had gone to the Delta up in Northern California and for water skiing. And I was an avid water skier. I've loved it. I just started skiing when I was 5. It's still one of my favorite things to do. And we had never been to that lake before. And within a few hours of being in the water, I was rushed to the emergency. And I had a severe allergic reaction all over my body from something in the water. We think it was the runoff of pesticides because there was a lot of farmland around that lake. And I never recovered. And that was the start to my burn. So I crashed by being at the hospital, and then I ended up never recovering. I had one allergic reaction after another. I ended up literally being the girl in the house. My husband brought all the groceries in. I could never leave. We had to take all the carpet out of my house. We took the carpet. I mean, we just did all these drastic things to stop the symptoms. But it was once I learned what the symptoms, what was causing it, the underlying reasons, that I got to actually heal. So we're going to talk more about how to listen to your body, because that's a big part of practicing self-care. What is your body trying to tell you? My body whispered at me, and then it spoke to me, and then it spoke a little louder over the years, a little louder over the years, a little louder, 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 and then it screamed at me. And you want to help start learning to listen to your body, practicing self-care, choosing you before your body screams so loud that you're down and out like I was. Okay, so let's talk about, where does the stress come from? Stress can be everywhere, right? Uncertain times. Right now, it's been a little crazy over the last few years with COVID, uncertainty of job stability, if you have kids, the uncertainty of what's happening with the schools with them, the uncertainty of being ill, the worry and fear of getting ill, upper management. We have a lot of stress. As managers, you guys have a lot of stress in your lives. And some of that comes from upper management. Not all of it, but some of it can. Direct reports and coworkers. Your stress comes from everywhere you turn. Continuous organizational changes, your families. What kind of stress is happening within your family? What are your familial lines, right? How does your family handle stress? Do you have a family that just crashes and burns every time there's a stressful situation? Everything blows up? You argue, or do you know how to handle stress? Or do you know how to choose you and walk away and say, this is not my game to play. I am not going to get involved. You are not my job to fix. Have you learned how to do that? So self-care comes from looking at all the different ways that our stress comes from us, the economy, our own goals, dreams, and aspirations. I had a dream. I started a business, but that actually helped me to kind of come to this place of where I became so ill because I worked so many hours starting my own business. I was working 12, 14 hours a day for many years, and my kids had grown and were out of the house. I was working from home, so I felt like it was a lot healthier for me, but I still overworked myself. I didn't choose me. Lack of resources and skills to deal with stressors, lack of knowledge. What do I do? How do I handle this? How do I build more time in my day? Right? That's one of the big things I hear all the time. My day is maxed every minute, every second. How can I possibly do something for me? So we're going to talk about that. Okay, let me see if anybody has any questions, concerns. Again, feel free to write in the chat or the Q&A if you have any questions or comments as we go along. I'd love to have some interaction. As a matter of fact, I'd love for you to just take a moment, and if you would just in the chat write, where does your stressors come from? And you can chat direct or post directly to me so that you don't have to have everybody see it. So if you just choose host as opposed to everyone in the chat, you can send to presenter. That would be just me. And just let me know if you wouldn't mind. Just take a quick minute. Let me know, where does your stressors come from? Where are your highest stressors? Give me your top one or two, maybe three stresses that you that come to you. Anybody would take a moment to do that, that would be great. I love the interaction. It makes this presentation just easier to do. So thank you. Okay, so we have somebody that says expectations placed on yourself, mainly around family obligations and work. Yeah, that I hear very often. And I love that you admitted that you place them on yourselves. Because yes, expectations, especially at work, are often given to us. But how we handle those expectations and the level of which we take them, like where I absolutely must do this, this, and this, we put that on ourselves. So I'm glad you recognize that. Spouses' medical issues. Yes, it's very difficult to manage when somebody is sick in the house. My husband has been my biggest fan and my biggest champion. I could not have done this without him. I could never have healed without him. But he went unnoticed for a long time, right? It wasn't until I was finally well enough to start recognizing that he was really taken down by this too. It was difficult for him. He suddenly took on all the responsibilities, right? He was cleaning because I couldn't clean. He was cooking and he didn't even know what to cook that I wouldn't have a reaction to. He was doing all the shopping. He did everything. It was really hard for him. And in the beginning, when I was so sick, I didn't have the power, I didn't have the ability to manage that, to recognize what he was actually doing for me until I started getting better and alleviating some of his stress by able to do more and more and more. So I hear you when you say that, your spouse's medical issues are hard. Students, clients, customers, and your own expectations. Yes, thank you for sharing that. We do put a lot of expectations on ourselves. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my healing journey is so much of that is just not necessary. It's really okay to step away from work and say, I have a headache. My body's trying to tell me something. I'm going to go down to the park right now. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to go down to the park. And this work is going to sit. And even if I don't get it done today, which I expected to do, I'm going to be okay. We're going to all survive. But if I don't get rid of this headache, I'm not really enjoying my life as I'm here working. I'm not really thriving. So I'm going to listen to my body and listen to what it's trying to tell me. And so our expectations, we get to turn them around. Like my expectation now is that I listen to my body. My expectation now is that I let everybody know that I matter just as much as they do. And I don't say it directly like that. I say it by showing them that I practice self-care. My husband comes home and, I try and do all this before he gets home. But if I need to go meditate, I tell him, honey, I got to go meditate. Because one thing I found out is that my body does not know how to feel emotions. So I shared that earlier that when there's sadness or I'm feeling angry, it actually shows up as a rash on my body. It shows up as an allergic reaction, which I used to take a Benadryl for. Now I know, oh, my body's trying to tell me something. I'm feeling something. And so I'm learning, I'm practicing. That's the next step in my healing journey is to actually learn how to feel things emotionally versus physically. But now I know how to stop it by taking care of me, by pausing, listening to what my body's trying to tell me and pausing. So thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's go on here. Okay, there we go. Challenges. We hear all the time, and I mentioned this earlier, time management issues, prioritizing ourselves. Why is it so hard to choose us? We would never let our kids go with a headache for 4 days, right? Or with a pain in their back for 4 days that goes unaddressed, or feeling sad and angry without talking to them and saying it's okay to cry, let it out. We would never do that because we don't want to see them suffer. But we do that for ourselves. It's so difficult often to choose us, especially when we're caregiving for others. That gets really hard because, like my husband, I know felt selfish if he ever, for the longest time, if he ever did anything for himself, if he ever just said he needed to take time for himself, or if he ever, just said no to me. Like he didn't know how to do that. And he suffered so much. And now I'm teaching him, like we're working with him practicing self-care because he never learned how to do that. Breaking negative habits, building positive habits. I don't like the word negative. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but breaking habits that aren't working for you. I like to look at it like, is this serving my highest good? Is this bringing joy into my life? Is this habit really serving me? Or is it only serving everybody else? Is it only doing good for everyone but me? Am I sacrificing myself for the good of everybody else? Life is fragile. Life is very fragile. And when we don't address things that are going on with us, our bodies can crash and burn very quickly. So, we get to experience joy. We are meant to experience joy. We are meant to laugh every day. And learning to laugh at yourself, like now when my body has this crazy reaction, I laugh and go, oh my goodness, what are you trying to tell me now? What am I not feeling? Right? What sadness am I not allowing myself to experience? All of that. So what is your biggest challenge? We kind of just talked about that. Thank you for putting that in the chat for me. Okay. How and when? So when do we practice self-care? So every day, I encourage you to have self-care become a regular part of your life. And the way you do that is by being in the moment. So when this says every morning, every day, being that role model, we're going to talk about that. But when it says every morning, every day, when we learn to listen to what our bodies are telling us, because your body will tell you when you're not practicing self-care. Your body will, if you're sitting at the desk for a long period of time and you notice an ache and you just kind of shove it off, or you try and switch positions, but you don't ever move, you don't get up and walk away, that's your body saying, hello, this is not comfortable anymore. I need you to walk around. I need you to get out. If you're feeling those headaches, or you're feeling pressure, or you just feel like you can't breathe because you're under so much stress, your body's saying, get outside, go walk, take a little walk. See the sunshine. Let the sunshine, feel the sunshine on your body, on your face. Your body's asking you to do things. It's asking you to listen before it starts screaming. And so self-care gets to become a regular everyday practice by learning to listen to your body, by pausing and saying, closing your eyes and thinking, oh, I'm feeling this right now. It's discomfort. We are not meant to be in discomfort. We are not meant to be in pain. Now, if you've been in a car accident and you're in pain, that's a different kind of pain, right? Your body's shouting at you because you're in this car accident. You're trying to heal it. You're going to the chiropractors. You're doing all that stuff. That's different. I'm talking about the everyday little messages that your body tells you, that when you listen and you take 5 minutes to take a break and choose you, it can change everything for you. I like to talk about how we put kids in timeout. Why do we put kids in timeout? Who's willing to put in the chat? Why do we put kids in timeout? What's the reason? Give me a few reasons in the chat why we put kids in timeout. Anybody willing? Before I go on and answer that, here we go. Okay. To get them to reflect on what they did wrong, to give them time to cool off, for time to reflect on their behavior. Yes. Yes. So why don't we as adults do the same thing? We need to start giving ourselves time out. And it's not necessarily about our behavior, but it's to listen to what is going on. And it could be about our behavior, right? We snap at a coworker, we snap at, our spouse or our kids. We realize that's not us. Why don't we give ourselves a timeout? Step away, 5 minutes. I'm giving myself 5 minute timeout. What's going on, body? What's going on, mind? What do you need from me right now? Do you need a break? Has everything, for those of you that are constant keep the peace people, this is my husband. Okay, keep the peace at all times. But then every 6 months, keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace. It builds up, builds up, builds up until the volcano comes and it explodes, right? Because you can't hold all that in all the time. So what he's learning to do now is recognize, I want to let that out as I'm feeling that frustration. I'm going to get in the car and on my way to work, scream as loud as I can and get it out on my way home from work if he's had a frustrating day at work. Because when we hold all that in, it builds up inside of us in one way or another, right? Give them time to decompress if they're overstimulated. Yes. And for us, it's the same kind of thing. If we're overstimulated at work, if we're stressed out, if we're feeling that anxiousness, if you're feeling so wound up that your whole body is just tight, right? Learning to listen to your body. Are you loose? Are you relaxed? Are you enjoying life? Are you enjoying your work? We can't always enjoy our work. Life is stressful. Work is stressful. That is the reality sometimes. So what can we do to then relax? Like I can recognize now before an allergic reaction, I'm starting to be able to feel my reactions a little bit more in the feeling tone of it. And I can recognize when that energy goes into my body and my body gets super tense. So now I'm trying to learn to figure out, okay, is this anger? Is this sadness? Is this frustration? Is this, what is it that I'm feeling? So that I can let it out. Deep breaths, very deep breaths. And we're going to get into the hows in a little bit. And I want you to know that when you choose self-care, you're choosing this and for you, and you're becoming a role model for everybody else around you. I thought I was doing my kids a service, by taking care of them so much when they were young. I married my husband had 2 kids, so we have a blended family of 3, and we were busy and it was chaotic because one of our daughters had really, really big problems. And so everything was focused on our kids. And I thought by showing them that I was there for them, even when I needed to take my break or when I wasn't sick, when I wasn't well, I was still always there for them and no matter the cost. I thought I was doing that. I thought that was good for them. And then when they grew up and now one of them has 3 kids, and I realized they don't know how to take care of themselves. So one of them, though, the one with 3 kids, we've been having lots of conversations so she can now see how important it is to take care of her so she doesn't end up like her mother. So we're getting to have those conversations, and me now choosing to heal myself has become a role model for her. So trying new holistic approach. I ended up doing everything holistically. Not everybody wants to do that, and I honor that. For me, everything Western didn't work over the years, and I tried both. I tried holistic and Western over the years. I just had no idea it was all tied to my emotions. So I wasn't doing anything in the right direction. And that's when trying new and different ways. Like when I was dying, my liver and kidney, my body was shutting down. I knew I had to try something different, and I went to a different type of doctor. So I found a Dr. House that specialized he was a Western doctor that specialized in holistic medicine. He was a functional doctor. And he was the first one to open my eyes about the trauma and how it was affecting my allergic reactions. And so trying something new, looking at what's not working in your life, right? If you're not feeling some sort of joy or happiness, at least throughout a little bit throughout each day, it's not that you're doing it wrong, but you could be doing it better. We're meant to experience joy and happiness in this lifetime. And yeah, there's sometimes that life gets really hard. I lost my dad. There was no joy or happiness during that time. But then I found my resiliency. I found my way back through that. I was only 24 when that happened. So we get to look at, doing things different, choosing us, and putting small steps in place, because you can't just change everything overnight. I had to. I was forced to. But for most people, that's not reasonable. Like my sister said, I would lose everything if I just quit my job and came home. And I get that. I had to. My husband and I had to shift everything. But I also, what I encourage you to do is to take little steps at a time and choose you. Take little steps to choose you one every day, because you matter as much as everybody else around you. You matter as much as your management, upper management, as much as your coworkers, as much as your employees, as much as your family and your friends. You matter just as much. You are just as important. You're not more important and you're not less important. But we tend to not want to not know how to take care of ourselves. So the first step is really looking at, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to look at what's not working in your life? Because very first step is noticing what's not working. Noticing, how often are you spending kind of grumpy or under stress or not feeling good, so not feeling it physically or emotionally. How much of your day is impacted and spent in that way? And what are you willing to do? And then start experimenting one thing at a time. We're going to go over some tips today. And if something resonates with you, yes, that sounds good, I'm going to do that. And start doing that a little bit at a time, one thing at a time. And when it doesn't work, when you find that, well, I tried that, but it really didn't work for me, try again. Try something different. Try something different. I went to several doctors before I found this Dr. House, I call him. And he changed everything for me. But I never gave up. I never gave up. It was a friend of mine that said, Cindy, when you have something as crazy and wild as you do, as big as what you do, you need to find somebody that specializes in rare things. So I did. And if I'm being honest with you, if I were going through Western medicine right now, I would have, I would be, what I was told is that I had to be on chemo, and I was just going to focus on quality of life for what time I had left. Now I've completely healed it all. I have no more allergic reactions, other than some of the foods that I'm still desensitizing to. But all the trauma, healing all that stuff from my past, helped me to heal who I am today, and helped me to get rid of all these reactions I was having. So there's lots of resources that are available to you. MyFitnessPal, Sleepwatch, Calm, Happify, Headspace, Strava. If you want to take a screenshot of this page, you can. Insight Timer. I use Insight Timer all the time. Insight Timer is designed to help you. It's meditations. So meditation has become a regular part of my life. I would not have healed without it. It's a big way to help you learn to listen to your body, to know what's right, what it's trying to tell you, to understand that, and just to calm your nervous system and find some peace. So meditation is really, really, really important, in my opinion, for me. You've got to find what works and what's important for you. And meditation can look like a lot of different things. And I think I'm skipping ahead into something, but since we're talking about it, I want to. Meditation can be cooking. For some people, just sitting there cooking a meal, listening to music is a form of meditation. Or a walk or a run where you don't have music on, you don't have anything disturbing your mind, you're just focused in the moment, in the now. That's what meditation is all about. It's getting you to focus on now, to breathe, to be completely in the moment right this second. Because we spend so much of our time in the future and in the past. And when you're spending all that time in the future and the past, you're not letting go of your stress. You're probably adding more stress in by worrying about the future, or, stressing about what happened in the past. All right, let's go through some of these individually. Sleep is so important. It's really, really important that you figure out if your sleep pattern is working for you, if you're getting enough sleep. If you're waking up tired every day, why is that? Are you dreaming funky dreams? Are you not going to bed early enough? Are you getting too much sleep? Some people, which doesn't happen that often, but some people get too much sleep. So just know what works for you. And are you getting a restless sleep? And then if not, seek a doctor, seek some, herbal things that you could do. Have chamomile tea before you go to bed. Try that. Like, try different things that you can do to help you sleep better, because sleep is so important. We definitely recommend that you don't have any TV, cell phone, any stimulation for at least an hour before bedtime. And that's really hard for most people, because most people turn the TV off and go to bed, or go to bed watching TV, but that's just stimulating your mind. So if you're not getting good rest, figuring out what to do that's peaceful, that's joyful, that's calming for you, away from the TV, away from the telephone, away from the cell phones, all of that, an hour before going to bed will make a difference for you. Insight Timer also has some really great meditation apps if you really just cannot get to sleep, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you tend to not be able to, like, some people can go to sleep right away, but can't. They wake up in the middle of the night unable to get back to sleep. So Insight Timer, and there's a lot of apps out there. I just use Insight Timer, but there's a lot of good ones. All right, exercise. Exercise is so important when it comes to releasing stress from our body. We have to find a way to decompress, to let go of that stress. And if you don't, it just sits in your body and it causes all kinds of problems, like I've talked about before. So I feel like I wake up almost every morning just full of all this weird energy. And it's from the night. I don't know exactly. It's from a lot of the stress that I've been undergoing with all the treatments. This isn't true anymore, but this is how it was when I went through my treatments. So I started every morning with a walk. And it would take me about a half mile to 3/4 mile of walking briskly. I can't do anything more than a walk, but walking briskly to let that energy release out of my body. And it's all just pent up energy from the night. And so once I release it, then I'm just walking. I like to walk on the harbor. So I'm enjoying the birds and the, water and the scenery, and saying hi to people, and just, that's my form of meditation as well in the mornings. But that first half mile or so is really about walking brisk enough to release that pent up energy that's causing me some anxiety, which now I know is anxiety. Before, I used to just say it was an allergic reaction. Now I realize, no, it's actually, I never thought I was an anxious person. I never thought I had anxiety or, was anxious. And I realized that I was a very, very anxious person because of all the trauma in my childhood, and it all manifested physically. So now I'm learning my body. I'm relearning who I am and how my body works. And it's beautiful. So when you're looking at what works for you, some people really need to get out there and hit those, I forget what they're called, but they have all kinds of like super aerobic courses that you could take, right? These gyms that you could go to, and they have classes and they have all kinds of things. And for me, that didn't work because that would cause an allergic reaction. I'd get too overheated. So you have to know what works for you, right? For me, walking briskly and then doing weights and things like that is what works for me. Do you like to run? Is running too hard on your body and you love to swim? So finding time and making time again for you, even if it's a little bit. Ideally, it's, 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. But if you can't do that, that's okay. Start small. Start with a 10-minute walk in the morning before you go to work. I guarantee you, the days that I actually get out there and walk, because I don't get there every day, is I'm a completely different person throughout the day. I know it about myself. I just sometimes have things going on, or sometimes my treatments were just knocking me down and I couldn't get out there and walk. I was just a different person. Find things that you love to do. So if you and your spouse like pickleball, go play pickleball. Pick it up on the weekend. Get off the TV, get out of the house when when you can, when it's not snowing and freezing cold outside, and go do something fun. Play group games, softball, volleyball. Find ways to get back out and start re-engaging with life for yourself, for something that you really enjoy. And again, I'm going to be giving you lots of tips, and you're just going to take a couple, like maybe one at a time. Okay, I'm going to first try this, and then I'm going to go on and do this, and then I'm going to go on and do this. So you don't need to, I don't want to overwhelm you with all these different things. Go do all this right now. That's not possible. It's not feasible. It's like dieting, right? It's like going into this big major diet and then not being able to stick with it. You want to start implementing little steps at a time into your life to practice self-care, to show yourself that you love yourself and that you're ready to put some more joy into your life, some more happiness and some more laughter and some more fun, because we need fun. We need it. We have a lot of responsibilities. Adulthood is difficult. We have a lot of responsibilities. And so we need to incorporate that fun that's not always going out and partying and drinking and that kind of fun. And that fun, once in a while it can be fun. That's great. But we want to make sure we're choosing self-care. We're really taking care of this body. That's the reason we're here, right? This temple is the reason we're here on this earth. Without it, we're not here. So we get to start taking care of it. I like to say get to instead of have to, because have to sounds so heavy and hard, but we get to. We get to love ourselves. We get to choose us. We get to practice self-care. We get to tell someone, you know what? I appreciate you asking me. I can't do that right now because I'm going to go do something good for me. And you don't even have to tell them the reason. Just start putting those boundaries up and saying no to allow yourself more time to do for you, to take care of you. All right, eating. Become a student of food and food preparation. Planning your weekly plan and your daily plan. Food shopping ahead of time. Recognizing if you're at a healthy weight or not. And if you're not, what are little steps that you can do to take care of yourself, right? It's not really about the weight. It's about what the overweight could be doing inside your body. So remember, it's all about self-care. It's loving yourself enough to make those changes to stay healthy and strong and thrive. Because the older we get, the harder it is to, we have to do more, right? We can get away with a lot when we're young, but then as we get older, we have to do more. We get to do more to take care of ourselves. Okay. Variety of nutrients. So making sure that you're eating, I like to say, instead of trying to figure out how many proteins, carbohydrates, I'm a nutritionist. And the reality is nobody hardly counts that stuff. If you're a, scientific mind, engineer type, yeah, you might be one that calculates and uses those apps and writes all that down, and that's great. But the reality is most people don't do that. So I look at it like try to eat by the seasons and eat a variety of colors. If you're getting, half of your plate vegetable, a quarter a meat or a starch, then you're on the right track, and keep your vegetables a variety of different colors. That's just the easiest way to recognize if you're eating healthy enough. And knowing whether your body is absorbing all the vitamins and minerals. This is a harder one, but it's really important, especially for some people that are struggling with their health. Because what I found is I felt like I was eating right. I was a nutritionist. I went to school for this. I have all these food allergies. I stay away from the foods I ate, and then I ate a lot of healthy foods. But what I realized is my body wasn't absorbing any of those foods because I had so many gut issues that I wasn't actually absorbing the nutrients, and I was very nutrient deprived when I first started down this healing path. And so I had to work on my body and desensitizing my body to these different vitamins so that I could actually absorb them. Let's see, importance of fiber, protein, carbohydrates, fat. You kind of know this, like you know this, right? You know how important all of that is. If you're not going to the bathroom regularly, you need more fiber. You need to have those carbohydrates, those fats, and then also mostly vegetables. And you can experiment with different diets, plans. I am a fan of lifestyle change as opposed to big diets. Diets work if you're really having a struggle and you're really overweight and needing to do something quick, but they don't last long. So we get to change those patterns and why we're overeating. So look back at those traumas, look at those familial behaviors. Is this a family issue? Is this something that I learned as a child to eat? Like, these are the things that are going to help us heal. These are the things that are going to let us choose us. And by choosing us and healing those things, that we're going to actually get to heal the reason. So for me, everything was allergic reaction. For some people, it's overweight. For other people, it's, chronic fatigue syndrome, or it's fibromyalgia, or there's all these different autoimmune and different challenges that we have that most often actually stem from childhood behaviors, the way we were raised, traumas we went through, familial DNA, like patterns that come from the family line, and there's ways to heal all of that. So really looking at, taking time to pause for a moment as opposed to just jumping into one more big thing. New Year's coming. Okay, I'm going to jump into one more big diet. I'm going to try this, or I'm going to do this big exercise routine. Looking at why are we not doing for ourselves? Why are we not taking care of ourselves? That's the first step. And then taking those small steps, deciding, okay, what's the one thing I really want to do different? Is it that I want to start trying to heal my past, or do I want to just start with exercise? It's up to you. You get to choose that. So psychological self-care. So negative emotions, and I put in the word difficult because I don't like the word negative, because I used to think those were all negative too. Loneliness, rejection, failure, anger, sadness, you know, bitterness, all of that, they're just our body shouting at us to listen to something, to heal something. So they're not actually negative, because if we learn to listen and we actually take steps to honor what they're trying to tell us, we get to heal. And that ends up being a really good thing. Now, when we look at positive emotions, joy, serenity, calm, happiness, these are the things that we want to experience more of, right? But the reality is we're often experiencing some of those more difficult emotions, or we're not allowing ourselves to experience them and we're pushing them inside. I'm going to give you an example. My brother lives I'm in Southern California. My brother lives in Northern California. It's about a 6-hour drive. And whenever I go to visit him, my husband and I, for years, we stay in his motorhome. And we do that because he has cats and dogs, and I still have not desensitized to animals. So that's my next thing that I'm going to be doing in 2023, which I'm super excited about. So we would go and be in his motorhome, and he has a nice big backyard, and so most of the time we just all spent outdoors. He has an outdoor kitchen. He's a chef. He catered for the Raiders for 25 years. So before they moved to Vegas, so he knows how to cook, and so he has this huge outdoor kitchen, and we would stay there, and we'd all stay outside. Well, for most of the time. Well, one weekend, we all went up there. My son was at the time going to University of San Francisco as well. And so we were excited to see him and my brother and his wife. And we all went up there, and it was the Dodger playoffs that weekend, and something going on with the Raiders. I forget, something big with the Raiders. And it was pouring rain all weekend. So everybody stayed inside, and I stayed in the motorhome the whole time. And I just told everybody, I'm fine. I'm reading a book. It's giving me a chance to relax. I'm totally at peace. You guys go in, do your thing, because I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want them to feel bad that I was outside. And so I just told them and convinced myself that I was fine. And I come back and I'm talking to my therapist. And as I'm talking to her, she goes, do you notice that you're tearing yourself apart? And I was scratching myself, and this is what I used to do. And my skin was getting redder and redder and redder and turning into a rash. And I'm just basically attacking myself. And she's like, you're not fine. You're just not letting yourself feel it. You're not fine at all. So she lays me on this table. She calms me down, has me do some deep breathing and relaxation techniques. And then she asks me to talk to my sadness. And all of a sudden, I just started crying. And she said, just ask your sadness, what is it trying to tell you? And I said, hi, sadness, what do you want me to know? And I actually heard my sadness say, just feel me. Let me be here. I'm part of you. And I know that's a really intense story, but it's so true. Our sadness, our loneliness, our rejection, our failure, feelings of failure, our anger, it's all a part of us. And it's a normal part of the human experience. And when we acknowledge it, that's all it wants, is to be acknowledged. And if we don't acknowledge it, if we let that anger build up and build up and build up, we have those explosions, right? But if we allow ourselves to feel those feelings, I laid there for maybe 10 minutes and cried and really sobbed and let out that sadness. And then all that itching, all that redness in my skin all went away. And that was the first day that I realized that I don't feel those feelings. I don't know how to. And that was about 3.5 years ago or so. And I'm still learning to feel it, because for over 40 years, my body learned to feel things physically, not emotionally. So I ask you to think about, pause for a moment. When you're looking at self-care, how are you managing your emotions? Are you letting them be? Are you telling your family? I told my husband, don't worry about me. I'm going to go up. I'm going to cry. You're going to hear me cry. It's okay. It's a good thing. He's learned now, like, oh, Cindy's going up for a cry again. Because if I cry and let it out, it doesn't affect my body because I'm letting it out. So it's a matter of, getting rid of that, belief that crying is bad, or, feeling failure is bad. It's not all bad. As a matter of fact, right now, I am being treated. I was treated this week in my treatments for failure, and the feeling of, the feeling of failure and the feeling of guilt around work. and then also itching, because everything for me is about itching. And the way I'm treated is I'm treated for that because of my old job, because I'm now working and helping other people with their, doing their working with chronic allergies. And I have all this guilt and fear because of my old business that I let go of and that I consider a failure because I got sick and I had to walk away from it and it failed. And so I'm desensitizing my body, which means I'm letting all those emotions out. I'm clearing the failure. I'm clearing the feelings of guilt, and I'm letting that go so I can move on, because we can't let it sit in our body. We got to move on. We got to let it heal up. I mean, let it out. And so we can move forward and be free. So, yes, you want to have more of those positive emotions of joy, serenity, calm, happiness, fun, laughter, peace, all that good stuff that we want, that we're craving. And there are little ways to do that throughout the day, which is, like for me, I turn on the music and I dance. If I'm cleaning, I'm dancing because I get to clean now. Yay. My husband's so happy. If I'm cleaning, I'm dancing. I mean, if I'm cleaning, I'm dancing, or I'm listening to music. That brings me joy. Christmas music right now brings me joy. My walks on the harbor bring me joy. Lots of laughter. Like, we need all of that. And so you want to do little things to help you with that. But you also want to give yourself the gift of self-love by acknowledging some of those other more difficult emotions. Try and stay away from the word negative, because if we think of them as negative, we want to push it away. We don't want negative things in our life, right? But we don't want to push away those. We want to acknowledge them and let them go. All they want to do is be acknowledged, and then they're gone. All that energy from it is gone if we acknowledge it. It's when it becomes dangerous is when we push it away and we don't acknowledge it. Okay? All right, let me see if there's any chats, any questions you guys have. Okay, I'm just chatting away here. So mindfulness, we've talked a little bit about this. Again, this is so important. So, so important. Being in the moment, recognizing what is my body trying to tell me, taking deep breaths, pausing, whether you're at work, at your desk, whether you step away. If you walk into a room and you recognize, oh, I'm feeling all this anxious energy, you might be an empath. Learning and recognizing, what is your body? Are you someone that takes on a lot of energy? If so, learning how to block yourself, learning how to protect yourself. All of it is so important, because you need to have those moments of calm, those moments of quiet, those moments of being reflective on what's happening with you in order to really understand what's happening with you. Okay, I have somebody here that says, I love having my favorite music on when cleaning or doing some tedious chore. It does make it so much fun. It makes it fun, and that's what we want, right? We could say, oh, I gotta clean, I gotta do this sucks, I wish I had more time, I wish I could do blah, blah, blah. Or we could turn on the music and say, thank you, I have this time to clean my house right now, I'm gonna listen to music and I'm gonna have some fun. So a lot of it becomes a choice, right? A lot of it, again, it goes back to recognizing, are you being grumpy? What are your feelings? What are your emotions when you're doing something, whether it's cleaning or cooking or, helping somebody out or working, whatever it is? What emotions are you having behind it? And what are your thought patterns? It's pausing long enough. It's recognizing that. And it's going into, what can I do different? Right? Do I need to pause and go have a cry? Because that's okay. Do I need to recognize that I'm angry right now? I had another quick example. My husband and I bought a car, and I knew my credit score was much higher than what they were telling me that it was. At the time, I was not feeling well. So I just didn't have it in me to fight them. And we got a much higher interest rate than we were supposed to get. And a few weeks later, we got the letter in the mail from the new lender that took the loan. And he sent us our credit report, and it was what I knew it was. It was high. So I realized that they ripped us off. So what did I start doing instantly? Scratching all over my body. And so I paused long enough and went, okay, I need to go downstairs. And I said, Derek, excuse me, I need to go downstairs. I got to figure out why I'm scratching right now. And I realized I was mad. I was so mad at them because I tried to tell them that day that they were ripping us off, and I didn't push myself. So I was mad at me and I was mad at them. And I just sat there in the room and I just punched and I just talked to them and screamed at them and I let it out. And then it was gone. was gone. I let it out. It was no big deal. It wasn't affecting me. And I laughed afterwards. I'm like, whew, that was a lot of anger I had to get out. But the point was I got it out. So it's being mindful of, do I just need to turn on some music? Am I just feeling a little like grumpy about cleaning right now and turning on some music is going to help me? Or do I really need to go and have a cry because I'm really sad about something that I just heard or read or whatever, right? So it's being in the moment conscientious. And you do that in the silence. You do that with meditation. You do that by learning to just sit, take a deep breath. Breath work is really good, and learn to listen. The power of music, the power of laughter. Laughter is life-changing for us, and we need a lot more of it in our day. And I have had to learn, I've gotten to learn to be a little lighthearted, because I kind of realized I was really serious all those years. And my husband's a very playful, so we have a good balance. He's very, very playful, and I used to just get mad at him for being playful, and now we have fun playing. Before I was more grumpy, like, oh, you're such a child, right? And now I realize, wow, he actually keeps us young and life having fun. Why can't I absorb? Why can't I be more like that? And so now I'm learning to embrace that and be more fun and playful too. So what is your power? What is your strength? Right? What is it that is going to make you, help you feel that joy, feel that love, feel that happiness and that laughter more in your life? What's your power? My superpower now is learning to listen to my body. And I ask you to help that be your superpower too, to learn to listen to your body, because it's not something we're taught. It's not something most people speak about, but it is life-changing when you learn how to do it, because our bodies will tell you everything. Your body will tell you exactly what you need to know at all times. Okay, so I'm so honored to have been able to give this talk. I want you to know that your Kepro EAP is there for you at any time, all the time. It's confidential. You can have your counselors available 24/7, up to 6 people in counseling per session. So you can have, family members, your extended family can be in counseling as well. You have management consultations. As managers, it's super important that you can be there and be effective managers. And the way you do that is by taking care of you, and you can utilize the EAP program to help take care of you. So this is super, super important. And then let's see, if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick moment, if you could take a picture of this, I forget what they're called, but this picture, and it'll pull up a survey for you. I would love and be honored if you would just take 1 minute to fill out that survey. It's really important that I'm giving you what you want, that you're getting a lot out of my webinars, and I can learn from this. So your feedback is very, very valuable and important. And does anybody have any questions? We have 3 more minutes. Does anybody have any questions for me? I have a comment here. Thank you for sharing your insights, personal experiences, and positivity. You're so welcome. I love this. I love talking and being able to share my story now, because I know I didn't go through all that for nothing. And I know that my body is this very different from most people, and it really, once I've learned how to listen to it and how to honor it and respect it and have fun with it, I'm just thriving. And I really am grateful that I get a chance to share that and help other people to look at their bodies in the same way, because your bodies are little miracles, right? And you matter. I just want to really leave you with that. Like, please, if you walk away, just walk away empowered to know that you matter, and your health and your happiness and your joy and your laughter and your peace, it all matters. And whatever you need to do to start having more of that in your life, you're worth it. You're worth it. You have to choose it. You have to choose it. Okay. Anybody have any other questions, comments? Question and answer. We have 1 more minute. Happy to answer any questions. I'm really grateful for this time with you. It's definitely all a choice. Sometimes difficult, but still a choice. It is difficult. It is very difficult. And I want you to hear that I know I'm very positive, and it's because I'm just so grateful for the path that I'm on. I also went through a very difficult process. My healing journey was not easy, But I told myself every day difficult is not bad. Every day that I learned about how my body was speaking to me, I was in full gratitude. Gratitude is another way. We didn't really talk about gratitude today, but it's another way to really be positive. Gratitude is a beautiful way to take care of yourself by being grateful for everything that's around you. And every day I learned, didn't start out this way in my healing journey, but every day I learned to recognize the beauty and the gold that was happening, like the miracle that was happening in my body as I healed one thing. I did this desensitization process for 4.5 years. This has been a long journey for me. I'm still doing them, but they're not as hard because I got rid of all the trauma. Nobody's gonna have, you're not gonna have to go through all that I went through. But choosing you and healing some of that past is so important, and it can be difficult, but difficult is not bad. Difficult is actually really great in the end. It's just choosing to do that. And so thank you for mentioning that, because it is a choice. And I'm so thankful that I chose it. And I really hope that you choose you too, that you take little steps, whatever that is for you, whatever you gain from this, just take one little thing. This holiday season, make this processing of shopping and everything, let it be an experience, right? Rather than a chore. Let it be an experience. Okay, looks like, oh, there is I'm going to put the link, edit. I'm going to post this link to everybody. Looks like the link was posted. There we go. Okay. All right, so I just posted the link, I think, for this, I believe that's what this is. Yeah, so the link for this is posted in the app or in the chat right now. And I'm going to read something else that somebody wrote. One of my favorite sayings: being positive doesn't mean ignoring the negative. Yes, being positive means overcoming the negative. There's a big difference between the two. Yes. Yes. An angel. Yes, very much so. And again, the negative isn't bad. We tend to think of negative as something bad. It's just a little hard sometimes, right? But it's so important. It means being positive means staying in the moment, addressing what needs to be addressed, and saying yes to you. Every day I woke up and said, all right. And for me, it was a very spiritual path. So I said, all right, show me the truth of who I am. Because I wanted to know more of my truth. Because I realized I am not meant to be this person that suffers all my whole life. That's how I used to think I was the girl that won the allergy lottery. That was who I thought. I won the allergy lottery, and this is my destiny. This is how I'm going to be my whole life. I learned to deal with it. And no, I didn't have to. And now I don't have to anymore. And I'm so grateful for that, because I was willing to put in the hard work. So thank you all. I appreciate your time. I appreciate that you jumped on today. I'm going to stop the recording now, and you have a beautiful holiday season.